We mustered in the old Wilder building opposite the War Department. Second sentence, I got to check it out. There's no Wilder building. I can't find a Wilder building in Washington, D.C., but this building right here is the Winder building, which today is the headquarters of the U.S. Trade Representative on F and 17th. Across the street from what used to be the War Department and the Telegraph Office. It's across 17th from that. And this building housed, among other things, the Quartermaster Department, the Judge Advocate's headquarters. Some of the Navy had offices in there. Rumor has it that when Scott transferred his headquarters from New York to Washington, that for a time he was here in the Winder building as well. And probably at this time he was there at the Winder building. Supposedly this is the building in which Lincoln gave his famous "the bottom is out of the tub" speech. This is what Hains is probably talking about. But hey, it's 1911. He's 71 years old. Although Hains has lived a long time, I think he was still pretty sharp at that time. The President had done us the honor to come over and shake hands with each individual of us. There were 36 officers that day, all young men or almost boys, for I was not quite 21. Well, there weren't 36 officers that day. Because only 33 graduated. And some of them resigned. Some of them got assigned to other places. But the next sentence, just like we had been raised on the farm, grinned Custer. But that dashing young soldier, soon to be a major general, was mighty pleased, as were we all, for usually Lincoln had people come to him eating goat people. Anybody here a big fan of Oddie Custer, or know a lot about him? If you know a lot about Oddie Custer, you'll know that he was under arrest in West Point, had not received an assignment yet. He famously wrote a memoir of arriving in Washington on July 20th or 21st, getting his orders from Scott and riding to the battlefield. So he wasn't there. But not only does Hains remember him being there, he remembers what he said. And it goes on and on. There's a lot of stuff like that in there. I put this up here because I'm going to be giving a talk on this guy in Gettysburg on July 2nd. This is Patrick O'Rourke. How many people have rubbed his nose? Nobody? Nobody has rubbed his nose. Nobody's gone to Little Round Top and rubbed Patty O'Rourke's nose. Really? I wonder how it gets so shiny like that. Anyway, he was a classmate. He graduated first in that class. I put this guy in there because we talked about him. That's George Armstrong Custer. Custer was a very physically imposing guy, over 6 feet tall. He used his height whenever he could to intimidate people. Check out the size of those hands. Good guy.
That's not a Derringer, huh?
That's actually, it's a revolver.
Yeah, those are big ones.
It's a small revolver.
Persco.
In brief, here's the Gettysburg campaign. I mean, here's the Bull Run campaign for you. All right, we leave Washington. Notice that the battlefield is generally west of Washington, not south of Washington. Most people picture it being south. You won't believe how bad the maps were at this time. So the McDowell's army leaves here, and it was not called the Army of Northeastern Virginia. That was a name that was applied to it after it no longer existed. But it left here on the 16th and fought a little skirmish here at Blackburn's Ford on the 18th, and then on the 21st, most of the battle took place there on Matthews and Henry Hill. Okay. I never know whether to call it Henry Hill or Henry House Hill. I'm more comfortable with Henry House Hill because when I call it Henry Hill, I think of that movie Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I think of making the posse and looking at the helicopters. Okay, here's a little bit more detailed this idea of where the Confederates were positioned along Bull Run. Okay, they had some forward positions all the way out to Fairfax. Yeah, no, not Fairfax. Yeah, Fairfax, and Centerville, and they pushed those back, but they were ordered to retreat anyway, because this was always the line that was going to be defended right here. There's a Centerville Ridge up here that they had also been in possession of. This position, strangely enough, you know, pick that up. We decided that's where they were going to defend. I think all the generals that were involved in this, first it was Philip St. George Cook, next Cook, C-O-C-K-E, the guy that blew his brains out following Christmas. And then it was Millard Bonham, and then it was Pierre Gustave Toutant Beauregard. But before that was Robert E. Lee, who was in command of the Virginia forces, right? Who was, where was he given his sword? I just learned this at dinner.
The legislature, the state capitol.
Who gave it to him?
John.
There we go. Learn something. See, I learn something new every day. Here's the Van Pelt House. This 7th Brigade is actually a demi-brigade under command of Tank 7 says Verolita. A lot of maps will actually have a little Verolita.
Oh,
you see. But he was up here around there. He just had a very small, they call it demi-brigade. I question whether or not he ever really had that independent brigade, because when he wrote his report, he wrote it to Cook. When he wrote it, so. But it was detached, because Cook's down here. But I wanted to point out where the Van Pelt House was. Here's the battle, basically. This is the way they were supposed to go. But so this is Hunter coming down from the Sudley Ford. You guys are generally familiar with the battle, right? And this is Heintzelman. He was supposed to cross here at Poplar Ford, but the guy took them all the way up, and then they just followed. But what was supposed to happen is Hunter was supposed to come down here and clear Bull Run Creek until Poplar Ford. When Heintzelman came over, and he's going to move this way. So they were going to maintain a fairly solid line in contact with the Stone Bridge, and over here is Tyler, Daniel Tyler, had the biggest division, despite the fact that he hadn't been in the Army since 1831 or something like that. Never did understand that. Here is the retreat. I just wanted to point this out to you, because Hains never did cross the creek, so he was always on the other side of the creek with what I'll describe to you in a minute. And the retreat comes, and all the Union soldiers just go back the way they came. Stone House. Here's, actually, the bridge is up here. You can't see it, because this isn't Bull Run. This is a young branch of Bull Run. And they just went back the way they came, which was a long way to go. But they didn't know any other way to go. At Bull Run, Hains was in command of one gun, one single gun, a 30-pound Parrott gun, or Parrott rifle, which was part of Company G, 1st U.S. Artillery under Lieutenant John Edwards, but that gun was assigned to Company E, 2nd U.S. under Captain J. Howard Carlisle. This is what I mean, and neither of those batteries or regiments was Hains officially assigned to. He was part of this Seymour's Pickens Battery. It was called the Pickens Battery. Seymour was at Fort Sumter, Truman Seymour, I think, right? Not Truman Seymour, he was the guy who ran for governor. Yeah, it's a different Seymour. And Pickens Battery was at Fort Pickens. Am I going too fast? But none of this is important anyway. But I just wanted to this is the gun right here. This is that big gun that weighed, I thought it weighed 4,200 pounds, but I was corrected. Craig told me it weighed 4,190 pounds. Okay. My question is, with this carriage and limber, because I now know that this whole gun slid back on that carriage so that they could rest the weight on the gun carriage and the limber. What that whole thing kitted out to, I don't know. Twice that much? Probably not. Probably what, at least 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, right? And you'll see, you'll be able to count 5 riders here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 horses pulled in. had a gun crew of 13. But Hains claims that he also had 100 men, 100 infantrymen assigned to moving that gun along the what was then called the Warrenton Turnpike, or Warrenton Pike, which is now the Lee Highway, right? Okay, so this thing weighed a lot, and if you've ever driven that road, it's not like it looks on a map, is it? But it goes like this, all right? And there's no brakes on that thing, from what I could determine. Am I correct?
You're correct.
No brakes on it. That's not a field gun, that's a siege gun. So what we're looking at here is the 1861 version of shock and awe. Shock and awe. They called this thing Long Tom. There was also another name for it, which I can't find documented quite so well, as the Baby Waker. And this was the gun that in McDowell's plans was going to open the ball at dawn on the 21st. And he did, fired and put a shot through that Van Pelt house. And there were two guns over there, one section of Latham's, I believe, battery, under Davidson, and I can't remember the other guy. Name right now escapes me. But they didn't return fire because they knew something was up. And that's what he was in charge of. And he sat back there, I think in general around the area where there's a quarry today, I think. And lost this gun on the retreat. Because when you're trying to run away, it's hard to run away with that. Okay? And we don't know exactly what happened to this gun. We know it was captured. We can find mentions of Long Toms in both the Navy ORs and the Army ORs, and find that one with that name was exploded down around Wilmington, I think in December of 1864. But you can't be sure that's it, because that name Long Tom started to be used as kind of a generic term. And actually by the time of the Boer War, they were calling all the big guns in the Boer War the Long Toms. And I don't know what happened after that. But there was also one, I think, in West Virginia that was a gun captured in the Mexican War that they called Long Toms. So, don't have any idea what happened to that. Somebody's working on that, right? Trying to find that. And there is one, which I think I stole from Craig's website. Did I not? Which you stole from somebody else's? Okay, so other things that Hains writes about is being attacked by the Black Horse Cavalry. Anybody here know anything about the Black Horse Cavalry? Okay, so he mentions them, but the Black Horse Cavalry was kind of like Sherman's Battery. Anybody ever hear Sherman's Battery? Sherman's Battery was at the Battle of Bull Run. It was in the brigade of William T. Sherman, but that's not why it was called Sherman's Battery. It's called Sherman's Battery because T.W. Sherman commanded it in the Mexican War. And at the time of Bull Run, it was under the command of Romaine B. Ayres. You'll find it all over Confederate reports. They had captured Sherman's Battery, Sherman's vaunted battery. Sherman's Battery was so famous when it crossed over to Alexandria, they had a picture of it in Harper's Weekly, crossing over, an engraving of it. And Ayres is in that picture as well. So this is pretty cool. This is a magazine illustration. But this is the kind of illustrations they put in magazines back then. You know, I'll put that up against, I won't name any names, with the stuff that they produce today. I think you compare it rather favorably.